You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. And today we have an actual breath of spring in New York. It's amazing. It won't last, of course, and the snow is coming and it'll be winter again for a while, but then spring will return. And for the moment, it's just splendid. The things are beginning to bud, and it gladdens the heart. And what also gladdens my heart is my guest, who is a British journalist, and who writes for The Guardian, which is where I discovered her piece. Her name is Rhiannon Cosslett. She's a British journalist, a feature writer, and an editor for The Guardian newspaper. In 2012, she co-founded a feminist blog, which is called The Vagenda, a feminist blog. It was published in book form by Vintage. In 2014, Rhiannon was shortlisted for a press award for Young Journalists of the Year. As a freelancer, she's written for publications as wide-ranging as Elle, Stylist, The New Statesman, The Independent, and Time. She has extensive radio experience, having appeared on Radio 4, Woman's Hour, and The Today Show program. She grew up in Wales, spent time living in France and Italy, and has now returned to her birthplace. And her first book, The Tyranny of Lost Things, was inspired by the London squatting movement, and it was published by Sandstone Press in summer of 2018. But her brand new book, which we'll be talking about today, is called Female, Nude. Female, Nude. And it was published in January 2026 by Tinder. And it is fascinating. I can't wait to read it. And I haven't yet because it's not out in the States. But I'm going to get it by hook or by crook, and we'll make it happen here. So, we'll be back in just a moment after this brief message. Subscribe to this program on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter at WMC Live, like our Facebook page at facebook.com/WMC Live, and visit us at WMCLive.com for more information about our show and our guests.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Rhiannon, it's lovely to have you here. Welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very glad that you're a guest, and we're talking about a book which, for a change, I have actually not read yet. This is unusual. Listeners know that I'm very rabid about having always read the books and marked them up and commented and thought about them ahead of time. So I have not read the book yet, but I'm eager to. And it looked, from your Guardian piece, wonderful. Tell us about the book.
So it's called Female Nude, and that's a reference to both a painting that's being painted by my main character, Sophie, who is an artist. She's staying with friends on a Greek island, and one of her friends, who's very wealthy, has become a kind of patron of her art, I suppose, and has asked her to paint this nude portrait, which she's in the process of doing. Mm-hmm. She's at a crossroads in her own life. She's in her early 30s. She's not become the successful artist that I think she hoped she would be at this stage. And she's under pressure from her partner to have a baby. And is kind of wrestling with that decision and what it might mean for her artistic career. Mm-hmm. And in order to work through that question and many other questions that she's kind of having about motherhood, femininity, desire, the female body, what it means to be both an artist and a mother, both historically and in the present. She has these, I suppose, imagined conversations with these women artists.
Oh, it's wonderful.
each
Yes.
of whom has painted a nude self-portrait herself or made a nude self-portrait, because some of them are photographs, some of them are sculpture,
Hmm.
um, and some of them are paintings. So there are 19 vignettes
Ah, what a
woven throughout
wonderful
this
idea for a
novel.
novel. What a great idea for a novel. It's fun. I
Thank
envy you.
you.
Go on, go on.
And so the main narrative takes place on a wonderful Greek island, amidst the kind of summer heat of this island,
Yeah.
and it's not giving too much away to say that an affair that kind of breaks everything open in her life and reconfigures it. Um, but the kind of parallel strand is her interaction with these artists,
Mm,
which I think if you're somebody who feels very viscerally about art, as I am and as my main character is, art is kind of a window to our own souls as well as a window to the souls of the artists.
absolutely.
So it's a way of kind of exploring her at different stages of her life,
Uh-huh.
from her childhood and adolescence right up until her death, as an older woman. So,
Mm.
and it kind of follows her trajectory through um, her career and her life. I don't want to give too much away
No, no,
because,
no, no, you mustn't.
it's part of the story, what
Oh,
happens to her and what her decision ends up being, and the
wow.
consequences of that one summer, which, I think it's hard in the moment to sort of pinpoint events that shape our entire lives, but I think we all have them, don't we?
Of
These
course.
things that happen to us that completely change the course of our lives and our careers.
Of course.
And that's the kind of point that Sophie's at in this book.
Oh, it sounds delicious. It sounds absolutely wonderful. When does it come out in the United States? I hope.
So it hasn't got a US publisher yet, although I believe it is sitting in some editors' inboxes as we speak.
Aha.
I think it's interesting. I think a lot of the people who read the article on The Guardian were actually from America. And there are quite a few artists in the book that I think would be familiar to Americans, whether the artist, there's Louise Bourgeois, who wasn't American, but of course lived and worked in America for many, many years.
Well, they should know many of these artists.
Yes, I think they should know some of them. And then others are kind of less known even in Europe. For example, Amrita Shergill, who
Mm,
is an Indian Hungarian artist.
hmm.
But I don't think we should underestimate readers either. I mean, what's been so
No,
interesting about the book coming out in the UK, um, is that the perhaps what you might assume are the more challenging parts of the book, which are to do with the artists' biographies, actually people have been really loving them. So it's nice, because I didn't want to be too kind of academic, although there's a lot of
right.
academic theory underpinning the story. But what people are saying is that it's actually a very easy read. So that's wonderful. I think it's introducing people to new artists all the time, and readers are saying they're really enjoying, Googling the pictures. There's a list of works at the back of the novel,
Oh,
and
this
you
is
can kind of look at the paintings and the sculptures that have been made
how
as you're
fun.
reading.
Oh, how very fun. This is fantastic. And we've got to get this book published here. It's called this is now going to be a minor obsession of mine. Okay. Yeah, and when we go off air, I'll suggest some publishers to you if it hasn't already gone there or gone to places.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know whether you want it to be with illustrations. I think clearly you do if you want to show
I
the.
mean, it isn't in the UK, I think because of the kind of licensing issues around
Oh, I see.
what it would involve to kind of
Pick up a
license each
Paula
image.
Modersohn Becker.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah,
more published as a conventional kind of literary novel.
I see.
But what I so enjoyed about writing this was that because there's never been written a kind of academic art history of the female nude self-portrait specifically, there are
Mm.
lots of great books about women's self-portraits, there are lots of great books about women artists, there are lots of great books about the nude.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically female nude self-portraits, I couldn't find anything.
You're
So I
kidding.
kind of had to make my own canon, as it were.
My goodness.
Um, and it was really difficult having to narrow it down because there are actually so many amazing artists that are working or have worked in this space,
Yes,
which is obviously, for obvious reasons, just such a highly political space,
of course it is. Of course it.
particularly in at the turn of the century,
Yeah.
when officially the first kind of female nude self-portrait was made, which is 1906, by Paula Modersohn-Becker, who's a
Yes.
German artist.
Yes.
Although I kind of argue that I think it's been happening for a lot longer.
I think you're right because I think because it was the only model that they would have had. They couldn't use male models. Um,
Exactly.
and they
And
couldn't use other female models for that matter. I mean, and so who were they to do? What were they to do except a mirror?
exactly. And like the oldest uncontested depiction of the human form, which was found, it was found in a cave in 2008. It's called the Woman of Hohlefels. It was found in a cave in Germany, and it was made about 40,000 to 42,000 years ago.
Now, is that the same as the Venus of Willendorf?
No, it's older than that.
It's older. Wow.
But it looks very similar. It's a kind of female figurine. It's carved from mammoth ivory.
Mm-hmm.
She's got these enormous breasts, this
Yes.
enormous belly, these big thighs. And for years and years, anthropologists kind of framed it as something that had been made by a man as a kind of fetish
God.
object.
Oh
You
God.
know,
Yeah.
it's only kind of relatively recently, that kind of mostly women anthropologists and art historians have been saying, hey, but doesn't this look like how a woman would make a picture of herself or an image of herself if she was looking down at her own body
Yeah. It is
without access to a mirror?
it's extraordinary, how contorted they have made their reasoning in order to recast everything as patriarchal. It
Exactly.
takes genius. I mean, it's like that. This is where they have spent their real genius, and it's so silly. It's so unnecessary,
It's
and
infuriating.
yeah,
It's actually infuriating.
it is maddening, absolutely mad. I discovered two or three recent examples of this, and um, I can't remember what they were now, but they were almost nose on your face kind of things, and I thought, why, oh Lord, why? And there they are. I mean, so it will take time undoing all of those, unknotting and unweaving them because they're so deeply integrated into the psyche. But the female nude and the female nude as the subject for the female painter seems to be academic in a not bad way. I mean, seems to be obvious.
It's fascinating because, obviously the female nude as made by women couldn't exist without it being in opposition to the kind of objectified female nudes of male
Of
artists.
course.
And yet what these artists all do in myriad kind of groundbreaking ways is explore, they kind of go beyond that. They don't just explore how it feels to be in a woman's body and to be subject to that kind of male gaze and that misogyny and that in some cases abuse. If you look at Artemisia Gentileschi, who is a
Oh
Baroque
yeah.
Italian painter, but they go beyond that and they explore all kinds of other things. They explore motherhood, they explore aging, they explore disability,
Mm,
all of these different amazing interpretations of what it means to be a woman.
yeah.
Um, and yet so many of them are still kind of unacknowledged, and even the ones that are hugely famous. I mean, in the UK, Tracy Emin's only just getting her big retrospective at Tate Modern this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's still a long way to go from when the Guerrilla Girls in the 80s were saying, does a woman have to be naked to get in
Get
the Met?
into the Met
Yeah.
precisely. Yeah, yeah. They are friends, and they recently did the program. They do it periodically, but they're wonderful. But they're still at it. It's 40 years, and
Yeah.
they're still plugging away. Yeah, it's a woman does have to be naked to get into the Met. Apparently, I mean, it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. But the um the piece that you did for the Guardian, which is where I discovered your work, was very exciting to me. I mean, and because I've also had these same kinds of thoughts in terms of writing, which is what my métier is. And is there such a thing as, being a woman's writer, or being because I've been called that, I've been called feminist writer, I've been called, you name it.
Mhm.
They will call us anything that they can stick on us. Um, and and of course, at some point I stopped and I thought, well, this is ridiculous. I mean, of course I'm a woman writer, and of course women write differently at this point than men do, and of course women see things differently than men do, and that doesn't mean that there's an unbridgeable gulf, but it does mean that there is a difference. There's a difference in perception and experience, in where you're coming from, uh, in in texture. There's a real profound difference, and you see it in the painting as well.
Of course, yeah. And I think what I really wanted to do with Female Nude was I wanted to write a novel of the female body
Mm,
because I think the bodily experience of being a woman is still something that's very much underexplored in literature.
yes.
I mean, Ferrante says this is a topic that is still, in its very early days.
Hmm.
Um, I joked to my editor that I wanted to write the Great Ovulation novel because my main character is essentially she's ovulating, and that's not a spoiler really either. And again, it's something that, hormonal states and how they govern us and how they
Yes,
affect our behavior and how they help contribute to the kind of art that we make and the decisions that we make. That was something that was really important to me to explore. Um, so yeah, I had to kind of lean into that idea
I
of
was going to say,
women
are you
writing.
going to be doing it more?
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to see what people make of this one first, I think.
Okay.
My last novel was all about, it was a kind of gothic novel about trauma.
Uh,
So a kind of modern gothic novel about trauma.
uh-huh.
So I don't know what my next one's going to be yet. I've kind of got the germ of it.
Oh, this is exciting.
Um, I think it might be darker than this one, although there's a lot of darkness in this. I mean, because, although it's not, I'd say, a hugely depressing read, what does come across is sadly, a lot of the artists died either in childbirth or
Of course.
due to botched abortions or due to violence.
Right. Right.
Some of them waited until the very end of their lives until they got their big retrospectives, or some of them, like Emma Amos, an American artist, who's one of the artists I chose,
Mm.
she didn't get her big retrospective until after she died.
Ah,
In 2020, and one of the kind of sad things that came across about her story was in an interview where she's talking to Bell Hooks, who is a great
uh,
friend of hers. She says, I know there's a painting of mine in MoMA, and sometimes I wonder if it's still there. And it's
uh,
just so sad to think that she
oh,
wasn't given her due in her time because she was an
of course.
incredible, groundbreaking artist who's making these amazing works about um, not just about gender, but about race and about the kind of white colonial male
Hmm.
gaze of art history,
Hmm.
these, kind of humorous but also very scathing critiques.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, there's a sadness to it as well that some of these artists died without receiving the recognition that they deserved, or as we know, with Frida Kahlo,
Oh,
there was a huge effort to bring her into the
yeah.
spotlight back in the 80s.
Yeah,
But
and
when
she in a sense, quote, had it made, unquote, because she at least was married to a great man. So she
Yes, and when she died in the New York Times,
that's right.
her obituary said Diego Rivera's wife dies.
Yeah, I know, I know, I know. It makes you, doesn't it make you scream and want to climb walls? I mean, oh God, it is so absolutely outrageous. And I've known Paul Motorison Becker for years, and
Mm,
many of the women artists that you refer to in the Guardian article. But
mm,
I want to get the book now. If I just okay, so we're gonna plot plan on how to get the book into the States, and we'll get it in. But in the meanwhile, if people want the book, if I want the book, what do we do? We can go to a British website and get
Yeah,
it.
you can buy it. I think you can buy it online from various UK bookshops. I know
Uh-huh.
that because I did have an American reader who read it and they'd managed to get it delivered there. So there
Okay.
must be some way that you can do it. I think she may have bought it off Amazon.
Okay.
But there may be other websites that do it as well.
Uh,
I'd love it if American readers
mm,
uh, wanted to learn more about some of these lesser known artists. I think
yeah.
like one of the American artists in the book is Anne Brigman, who I think isn't that well known. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think she's that well known even over there. But
I
she
didn't think
was
so.
hiking up into the desert in California in 1907 to take nude self-portraits with her camera, which is
Ah,
just quite astonishing, really.
God.
She was a kind of proto-hippie, I think, before
Oh,
they even existed.
oh my God.
Yeah.
This is, it's like unearthing an entire other universe. I mean, it's because it's people with its own population and with its own characters and with its own strifes, and it's extraordinary and quite remarkable. Um, and then you realize how strained and pinched the old was, how the male artist's female nude um, begins to look tediously the same.
Exactly. And I mean, Suzanne Valadon, who's again another one of
Yes,
the artists in the book, she modeled for Renoir, she modeled for Toulouse-Lautrec, she was a great
yes,
Degas. And, I think part of what made her nudes, both, her self-portraits and her nudes of other women, so naturalistic and so embodied is the fact that she understood how it felt to kind of model for male artists and what was lacking in their depictions. Because the whole time she was modeling, she was just watching and she was learning how to paint. And she was brilliant.
ah, it's yeah, and it occurs to me that maybe as an introduction to the U.S. public, many of the artists that you mentioned in the novel are known to people here. But for the ones who aren't, is to maybe have a show which is called The Model,
Mhm.
and to pull the masks off of these women who were painters, not models, and so it would be an ironic title. But
Mhm.
but to reposition them so that we realize who the hell they were, and they were something else. I don't know.
Oh my God, like if you could do a group show of sort of female nude self-portraits
Mm.
in history, if you could somehow get all those artworks in
Can
one
you
place,
imagine? Yeah,
quite an undertaking. But the power of it
yeah,
would be extraordinary.
yeah, yeah. It really would. Huh. Oh God. Well, it makes me want to begin to make lists. Oh Jesus. Well, you are a gem. And the finding of all of these and putting them together and putting them in a work of art itself is quite an accomplishment. And I will send away for it, and I will get the book, and I will also we'll stay on the phone after after we finish speaking, um, so that I can trade some publishers with you and give you some more ideas, possibilities in the States.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you
Because
so
this
much.
this book needs a U.S. home. Not that anybody should have a U.S. home these days with this government, but everybody should run in the opposite direction, screaming. But still, there are some of us who care and want to read, and this sounds like a juicy, wonderful, wonderful read. Thank you, and thank you again for being with us on Women's Media Center Live. You're a peach.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
We have to take a short pause here, but I will return very, very soon, so don't go away. I'll be back with some maybe fighting words. The Women's Media Center, founded in 2005 by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and myself, is a progressive, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working to make women visible and powerful in media. You can learn more about the WMC at womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Well, where are your great ... fill in the blanks? Women artists, women composers, women surgeons, women... fill in the blanks. They exist, you know. Those are fighting words. Some years ago, when 400 Years of Women and Art was a touring show and put together by feminists, and it came to the Brooklyn Museum, and I went out to Brooklyn to see it, and it was so extraordinary that I was blown away, and I came out of the museum and sat down on the steps. I remember it very well, and I burst into tears. And people came by and said, "Are you all right?" And they were very nice, but I was all right. It's just the world was not all right. I could not believe that this genius, this amazing panoply of work from all these years of women artists had been taken from us. It was execrable. It was unexplainable. It was that we had never been let to have it. And then I thought, well, I wonder how many I can name. I wonder if I dare try. And I do dare, but I dare not because I think I'm smarter than anybody, because I'm so not, but rather because I wanted to show proof of our abysmal ignorance and of everything we've been robbed of, just the sheer wealth of this glory. And this is only painters. Don't forget every other field. So I decided to jot down some names and see what I came up with. And they're all over the place. They're not in any proper order or even proper age. They're Renaissance painters and they're modernists and they're everything, all mixed together, just as they came to me, as they occurred to me. So this is maybe just a beginning. Yeah, just a beginning. Artemisia Gentileschi, Frida Kahlo, Louise Bourgeois, Yoko Ono, Carolee Schneemann, Gwen John, who modeled for Auguste Rodin, Amrita Shenjil, Emma Emos, Paula Modersohn Becker, who may have done the first ever shown female nude done by a woman, Francesca Woodman, Suzanne Valadon, who modeled for Renoir. She was Renoir's dancer. Janie Sayville, Lisa Bryce, Anne Brigman, Alice Neal, Faith Ringgold, Francesca Woodman, Tracy Eman, Zanele Muholi, Lee Krasner, Lavinia Fontana, Katharina van Heinesen, Marietta Tintoretto. Sometimes they were daughters of painters, and the painters had no sons. And so what were they to do? Well, they put the daughters to work in their ateliers, and there they learned to paint. I don't know if Marietta Tintoretto was one, but her name certainly speaks to it. Judith Lester, Anna Mendieta, Mary Beale, Georgia O'Keeffe, Kate Millett, Judy Chicago. I could go on, but what's the point? That gives you some idea of the few names that I have rescued from my own ignorance and continue to try to educate. Because our great women artists, where they are, well, they've been here all along. Oh, and P.S., Isabel Bishop, and Kate Kollwitz, and Helene Scherfbeck, and more, and more, and more, and more. And that's our show for this week. You can follow me on social media at The Robin Morgan. You can check out my blog at robinmorgan.net, and you can find my new novel, Parallax, and my just-out new book of poems, Harvesting Darkness, wherever books are sold. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. Executive producer, as well as founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. WMC president and co-executive producer for this program, Julie Burton. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Join us next time on Women's Media Center Live.